Welcome back to the deep dive. I always love finding these kind of unique events. Like this one is really interesting. We're going to do a deep dive on Cypriot wine, and there's this really cool tasting event happening soon.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that Cyprus has been making wine for thousands of years. This event's a great opportunity to experience that.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like a pretty special opportunity. It's called the Wine and Cheese Networking Night, hosted by Konia Growth Hacking on December 20th. They're featuring wines from a boutique winery called Nelion. They're known for high-quality wines, and they're all handcrafted.
It's family run too, which I always think is cool. They only make a limited amount of wine each year, like around 35,000 bottles, which really shows that they care about quality.
Definitely makes it more exclusive. But here's what really got my attention. They're featuring Petnat sparkling wines, made from black muscat and Zinistry grapes. Now that sounds pretty interesting.
Oh, yeah, those are great choices. So Pet Nat is short for Pétillant Natural, and it's a natural sparkling wine. They use this ancient method where they bottle it before the first fermentation is finished. So it creates this naturally bubbly and often a little bit cloudy wine.
Wow, that's really cool. It's like tasting history.
Yeah.
And to be able to try these unique Petnats at this event, the flavors must be incredible.
I know, right? It's a chance to taste how these ancient methods create such unique flavors. The black muscat, with its potential for rose petal and citrus notes, and the Zinistry, known for being crisp, and its green apple, lemon, and herb aromas both sound amazing.
And we can't forget the cheese pairings. The sommelier, Gergana Nikolova, will be there to help people find the perfect pairing for each wine.
Pairing cheese with pet nat is an art form. I bet the black muscat, with its delicate flavors, would go well with a soft goat cheese, while something like a semi-hard pecorino could balance out the Zinistry's higher acidity.
Okay, now I'm getting hungry.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to try pecorino. I hear it has this salty and nutty flavor. Would that clash with his industry, or would it be a good match?
That's a great question. It really depends on the specific pecorino and the winemaker's style. But that's the beauty of wine and cheese pairing. There's so much to discover. Gergana will be great at helping people explore those subtle differences.
I can imagine. And get this,
Yeah.
you can even book a private wine tasting at your villa with her. That would be such a cool way to experience Cypriot wines.
And speaking of experiences, we shouldn't forget about the networking part of this event. It's a great chance to meet other people who love wine and maybe find some hidden gems in the world of Cypriot wine.
For sure. It's the perfect mix of social interaction and indulging in something delicious. Talking about tasting notes, sharing stories, and discovering new favorites.
I wonder what other wines Nelion will have there. What are you most interested in trying based on what we know so far?
Honestly, I'm hooked on the pet nats. The idea of experiencing these ancient, sparkling wines,
Yeah.
especially paired with perfectly chosen cheeses, that's what I'm really looking forward to. Plus, having a sommelier like Gergana to guide us through it all, this event sounds incredible.
I totally agree. It's such a cool opportunity to really dive into the world of Cypriot wine.
Before we get ahead of ourselves, though, let's step back and talk about the history of these wines. Where do you think we should start?
To really get these wines, I think we need to go back to the beginning. Cypriot winemaking has a history of over 4,000 years. It's one of the oldest in the world.
4,000 years. Wow, that's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
It's a tradition that goes back further than so many civilizations.
It really puts things into perspective, right?
Man.
Imagine people in ancient civilizations enjoying a glass of Cypriot wine. They've even found remnants of a huge wine press from the Bronze Age.
No way. So these wines were being enjoyed all over the Mediterranean thousands of years ago. I wonder what those ancient winemakers would think of the wines being made today, like those pet nats from Nelion.
That's a good question. There's been this resurgence in using indigenous Cypriot grapes, like Zinistry. It's like bridging the gap between ancient and modern winemaking.
Speaking of Zinistry, Nelion just released their 2022 vintage, and they're calling it unique on their website. What makes this grape so special?
Well, Zinistry is one of the grapes that's native to Cyprus. It creates these white wines that have a really distinct character. They're dry, with a crisp acidity. And you get these aromas of citrus fruits, herbs, and sometimes even a hint of minerality.
So it's not your average white wine. It sounds like it has a lot of personality. I can see why they call it unique. It'd be cool to hear what Gergana thinks about it, especially the 2022 vintage.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm also curious about how she pairs these Cypriot wines with food. Cypriot food has all these influences from Greece, Turkey, and the Middle East. There's so many different flavors to work with.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Like grilled halloumi cheese, fresh seafood, maybe some lemon potatoes.
Right.
What do you think would go well with those industry wines?
I bet a vibrant Sinistry would pair really well with the saltiness of halloumi, or maybe even a dish with a little bit of spice like a prawn saganaki. The acidity in the wine would cut through the richness and create a nice balance.
You're making me hungry. This tasting event is more than just about the wine. It's a way to experience a whole culture through taste.
And having a skilled sommelier like Gergana to guide you through those pairings really elevates the experience. It's like having your own personal expert helping you find those hidden flavor combinations.
I'm thinking back to the networking aspect of the event.
Yeah.
I wonder if there will be people there who really know a lot about Cypriot food and wine. It would be awesome to talk to someone and get their recommendations.
Totally. We could get some insider tips on local restaurants that specialize in traditional Cypriot dishes. Maybe even find some hidden gems that are off the beaten path.
This is starting to sound like a must-do trip for anyone who loves food and wine.
Right.
But for now, let's get back to the wine itself. What else should we explore about Cypriot winemaking? Going back through the history of these wines, it really makes you think about the connection between the past and the present. It's amazing how winemakers today are still drawing inspiration from these traditions that are thousands of years old.
Yeah, it really shows how important Cypriot winemaking is. It's like this sense of continuity, a passing of the torch from one generation to the next.
Exactly. And it's not just about copying what they did in the past. They're building on it, coming up with new ideas while still respecting those ancient roots.
That's a great point. And I think that's what makes events like this Wine and Cheese Networking Night so special. It's a way to celebrate both tradition and innovation. It shows how Cypriot wines are changing while still honoring their history.
I'm really fascinated by those indigenous grapes we were talking about, like Zinistry.
Yeah.
They're like a direct link to the ancient world.
I know, right? Each sip is like tasting history, a connection to these ancient civilizations.
And to think we have the chance to experience those flavors, those unique Cypriot wines at this event.
It's not every day you get to taste wines with such a deep history and tradition.
And with Gergana there to guide us, we'll really understand the subtle differences in each wine, the stories behind the grapes, and the skill of the winemakers.
It's like having a secret key that unlocks a whole new level of appreciation for these wines.
So to anyone listening who's even a little bit curious about these wines, I say go for it. Explore the unique flavors of Cyprus. You might discover something amazing.
Absolutely. Look for those indigenous varietals and those smaller wineries like Nelion that are making wines with a real sense of place and history.
You might even find your new favorite wine, one that takes you to a world of ancient traditions and incredible flavors.
And who knows? Maybe you'll be inspired to take a trip to Cyprus to see the magic of this island for yourself.
That's a great idea. Imagine walking through the vineyards, breathing in that Mediterranean air, and enjoying all the flavors of Cyprus.
It would be an amazing trip. A real deep dive into Cypriot wine culture.
Well, this deep dive has definitely made me want to go on an adventure, both for my taste buds and for real. I can't wait to try more of these Cypriot wines.
Me too. Until next time, keep exploring and keep discovering.